a week off, but the wrestling world doesn't slow down. What's going on, everybody? Flobo Boyce here with another edition of Draped in Gold. And as always, I am not alone. I'm being joined by the yes purveyor himself, real Jack Farmer. What's up, man?
Yes, man. I had quite the
Hey,
2
you.
weeks. I
Stupid ass
I
catchphrase.
survived a tornado. I
What?
went to the hometown of Elvis Presley. I got to
Wow.
call some action for some big monster trucks. I filmed a commercial. I did all sorts of stuff, Globo. It's been a crazy couple weeks, but I'm back where I belong on Draped in Gold, giving you a hard time.
If there was ever an intro that says there's a lot to unpack. Wait, what? You fought a tornado? What's going on? Is that like
I
Matt
fought
Hardy?
a tornado and I won.
Was that Matt Hardy's version of One's theme song? I can slap a tornado.
Yes, that's right.
There ain't no in me. Tupelo, Mississippi, man. I heard it was humid. I heard it was cold. What's going on?
It was very humid, man. I would go from the arena to outside, and it felt like I walked through a waterfall. An incredible time, though, with Monster Jam, getting to call the biggest show on dirt, as they say.
Yeah.
So next time I'm doing Monster Jam, I'll let everyone know, and you guys should come check it out. Tupelo's a fun place, you know, Flobo.
That does not sound convincing at all.
I met some interesting people there, and
that is not with good personality. Stop it. Just so
no,
you
it was great. It was great. I was at Texas Roadhouse one night and started chatting up a bunch of the locals, and they actually ended up coming to the show. It was a good time.
The bread over there is to die for. Well, that's why you didn't come to work last week.
Cinnamon butter.
Oh, yes, it is. But you didn't come to work last week, so I had to cancel the show because I also was playing hooky. I was in Toronto and Detroit for baseball. We said before we should probably have switched. You should have been in Detroit, and I should have been in Tupelo, Mississippi.
No, I don't think either of us would have survived that trip.
Draped in Gold, we hardly knew ye. As we stream right now on that YouTube channel and Twitch and on Jack's X channel, drop a like, drop a hey, drop a sub. Questions, comments, concerns are definitely warranted and loved because we interact with our audience. And if you're getting this later on that audio or video podcast app of your choosing, 5 stars is what we need, baby.
Yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe. I see Danny Cochran already in the chat saying he's here for Akira and Ska. All you need in a good day. And
can I block comments?
Ricky Sinclair saying, "What's up, fellas? Good to see you back." And A+ LA just disrespectful to SmackDown.
Okay, we got to talk about this because yesterday you had put on X for like, hey, what is your favorite singular wrestling program? And A+ LA was like, the count is 1, Raw and SmackDown. You're like, that's 2 shows on 2 different nights. A+ LA, what are you doing?
We're just giving you a hard time, A+ LA. It's all good.
Real hard time.
What's your favorite show right now? A wrestling show.
Okay, so to be fair to me, background, I was always a C-show guy. I grew up on C-shows. Like, I love Velocity, Jack the Metal. Not calling it a C-show, but I like NXT. It just feels like a complete like world that like has some slight crossovers. You don't have to watch 6 hours of programming. You know what I mean? It's kind of like family-friendly fun. And as I'm such a graphics junkie, I love the graphics when Vic Joseph is going to pop a vein, telling me what's going to be on next week's card. So
yeah, that's fair. A lot of people seem to like NXT right now.
We were an NXT show at one point. Remember that?
Yeah, that's why it's draped in gold. There's the black and gold brand.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Adam Cole, baby.
Those are man, long time ago.
Yeah,
days gone by.
That's a good song. Days gone by. A+ LA is already getting ahead of us. So one thing is about NXT though was that I don't know if we call it the CWC. At one point, it was the CWC, but now it's back to being the Performance Center. Was leading chance of FU Swerve falling out with the last week of that Booker T Swerve Vlad TV drama. I mean, Dynasty had a FU Booker situation from Swerve. It has been an absolute mess with everyone on the wrestling world taking sides. And so this is a very nuanced subject. I won't ask you about Black history here, especially when it comes to entertainers. But let me ask you this, Jack. How is it when you have someone who's established, like in Booker T's case, a veteran, is dealing with a younger talent who have basically went on record and said, you ain't S?
First off, I want to start off with me saying this is a really tough thing just on a personal level for me because Booker T, one of my all-time favorites growing up, and Swerve Strickland is one of my favorites.
Wait, can I jump in real quick? I want to say that you put me on the Booker T because I was very mid on his career. But you're like, hey, man, open your eyes, sucker. That was a quote. That was cool.
Yeah, and then I did this at you. Which some people say this, inspired the this. That's no one says
that
except
is
for me, but now
the bookends
I
are rock
am.
bottom. Yeah, sure.
But so it's two of my favorites, really. And I look at this as there's three different perspectives on this situation. And that is the perspective of us, the fans, the perspective of Booker T, and the perspective of Swerve. And so for fans, I look at this and I say, we are always asking professional wrestlers, we're asking celebrities for that matter, to always talk openly and to say what their real opinions are, their thoughts are, their perspectives are. So if you would disagree with what Swerve said or you have opinions of him, I think that's fine. But as fans, it's kind of hypocritical for us to be upset that he's actually answering the questions that all of us want him to answer in an honest way. Right. So as fans, I don't think we should hold that anything against either of these gentlemen for what they've said. From Booker T's standpoint, Booker T's a legend, and Booker T probably did all the things that he claims he did for wrestling. Now, I wasn't there, so I'm not going to that's why I say what he claims. But he probably did. He probably did pave a lot of roads for people and open a lot of doors for people. And I also think that he was very professional in how he handled it. I think he took the high road. And I think just because two people disagree on something doesn't mean one of them has to be wrong or one of them has to be the bad guy. But at the end, I look at Swerve and I say, Swerve built his audience. Swerve can use that audience and speak to that audience however he wants. And I say that for any celebrity, if they want to endorse a political candidate, that's great. That's on them. They built that audience.
You're just saying that because I ran for office at one time.
Right.
I came in last place, but I did run.
And I didn't endorse you. I endorsed the other guy.
You didn't endorse me. What the?
No, but I think he was very candid and open about his feelings. So good on him for that. I think the question of whether you agree with him or and what he said is irrelevant because it's his perspective and it's how he sees things. So I don't think I can, I don't think there's necessarily a wrong here, but I do think that the best case scenario is these two guys offline, away from everyone, can chat and squash this. I think the world is probably better off if these two are on the same page than if they have some kind of issue with each other.
Yeah, Booker T pretty much implied that he's not going to put him over in public anymore. But A Plus LA actually touches on something which was my next question on this. It says, love Swerve, but it seems AEW has boosted his ego tremendously. And so that seems to be the sentiment for those on the side of Booker T, but this young talent and Swerve has gotten an ego thing. But I will also say, also ask you, because you are an entertainer, a lot of times people don't know entertainer, the first thing they go to is saying they're arrogant. So the question I have is, how do you navigate that? Do you even try to navigate that if everyone has a preconceived notion about your mental state?
Well, first off, I don't know if AEW gave him an ego as much as AEW gave him a platform that we listened to him. Because I think Swerve is someone who's always believed in himself. And I think Swerve is someone who's always said what he felt and said, did all these things. I mean, if you listen to stories about how he had fought for people in Lucha Underground to get out of bad contracts back before he had this big platform. So I don't think this is a different Swerve than he's ever been. I think that he just has a platform that he didn't have before. And also, when it comes to ego in entertainment, especially, and I'd say this with sports, I guess with a lot of things. Two things. One, when you find incredible success, you should have an ego about that success. It's imagine being like, LeBron James has kind of developed a bit of an ego about how good he is at basketball. Well, yeah, he should have an ego about it. Cody Rhodes probably thinks pretty highly of how good he is.
Cody Rhodes fan.
So I think that, John Cena probably believes in himself. The Rock probably has a pretty big ego about who he is. So I don't think that it's a bad thing to have that ego. I also think that, especially in the world of pro wrestling, it's, again, hypocritical of us to tear someone down for having an ego when we're constantly telling people you need to be a star. You need to have an aura. You need to stand out. And then as soon as they say, wow, I'm a star, going, whoa, pal, pump the brakes a little bit. You know what I mean? So I guess those are my thoughts on the ego thing.
No, I'm with you 100%. Again, talk to Will 5 Stud, who's here live. It's always a pleasure when you do make it out here live.
Will 5 Stud.
Stud Muffin. You do need a bit of an ego because one of the problems about performing in front of a live audience, which you do and I have done, is that there is always this constant. You got to give yourself to the material, whatever you're reading, whatever you're performing, but then you also have to get feedback to improve, and that would either make you crumble and become completely like want to be a people pleaser, or you start to have to filter out comments of value, comments of not value, and over time you go, no, I've done this enough, I've done enough days in the practice gym or whatever have you, I'm going to do what I want to do. Not to say I know what Swerve is going through, but the arrogant thing doesn't work for me. But
I do want to add, this is just maybe to defend ourselves, is there was a time, and I can't remember if this was Wrestling Inc., if this was here, it was somewhat recently though, someone left a comment that sometimes we preamble too much before we say something, and we'll qualify things, and we'll say stuff like, I like this wrestler, however, I don't like what they're doing. I say, just say what you think. And this is exactly why we add these preambles to what we say, because things can get taken out of context very quickly. Also, things can go off the rails very quickly when you're speaking about things. And that's why we add clarity to what we're trying to say, because sometimes if you say, I don't like what this wrestler is doing, if I'm like, I hate what Rick the Model Martel is doing, trying to use someone who's not current so no one gets hurt, you know,
legend.
If I hate Rick the Model Martel, I might be saying I just hate the character, but people read that wrong. And you need to, that's why we do these things, is you don't want this kind of stuff to happen.
Not to say that, but that's how I feel about Karrion Kross. I'm always like, not the guy who plays Karrion Kross, but the Karrion Kross character makes no sense. But speaking of things that kind of do make sense, AEW Dynasty is getting into the April business, because the first weekend of April is not WrestleMania weekend, so why not put a pay-per-view there? This one's emanating from Philadelphia, AEW Dynasty. I know, Jack, you're saying this is a very pivotal year for AEW, but this one had a bit of mixed results going by the perception on Twitter, but there were some highlights and some lowlights on Sunday's pay-per-view.
Every time I hear Philadelphia now, because last time I was there was the last WrestleMania, it was so cold, I always think, oh, I bet it's freezing, no matter what time of year.
It's a whole ice storm in the eastern side of the country, man.
It could be in August though, and I'd be like, oh, I bet it's freezing over there.
That's how Canadians feel. Like, hey, we have summer too up here.
There were some hits and there were some misses. In fact, we were talking offline. We need to come up with a good branded name of our own for a hits and misses, ups and downs kind of segment. So I'm just going to throw that to the people. If you guys have any ideas that fit for ups and downs, hits and misses for a good name we can start using on the show, let us know. We'll steal your idea publicly.
We will do that. But you mean like when someone calls in and have like the indie music segment in the radio show, like trashed or blasted or play it or skip it kind of a thing? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Cochran just said on fire.
They know we'll get this a year from now. Why are there so many rocks in the show?
I don't think people will get it now. I think we've already passed. It's been like a year since he was saying that.
It was a WrestleMania promo. It was. I should be knowing you're a rock. Lordy.
So a couple big hits for me. I'll start with the hits. The biggest hit for me was that international championship match, Kenny Omega, Ricochet, Mike Bailey, because first off, Kenny Omega, and this includes his promo on Dynamite, I think this is the Kenny Omega we wanted. This is Kenny Omega we wanted back, someone who's putting on incredible matchups. I thought his promo was the best Kenny Omega promo we've had in a while, because it wasn't corny and goofy, but it was still who he should be. So I love that. I think this Ricochet is the best Ricochet we have ever had. I'm not counting Prince Puma, Pump the Brakes, but
two different entities.
But I think this Ricochet is the best Ricochet has ever been, and I think that it's by a long shot. I think he is really getting a chance to show who he can be as a personality while still being great in the ring. And Mike Bailey, Speedball, is just a perfect personality and wrestler for AEW. He fits like a glove. I think that match was everything I want to see from AEW in the future.
I agree across the board. Even though I'm not really a fan of this iteration of Ricochet, it's very true that it's like actually his best work. That stuff. It's weird because you have a noise limiter, so it's like You're like, Jack, are you there? It cuts off his laugh. And I think Speedball Billy got the man of the match if I was going to do this. But Ricky Sinclair, Fins Ups, has something that's really interesting because it is April. It is high season for professional wrestling. Because for the first time in a long time, brother, that's my impression of him, apparently. I don't know. I missed an AEW pay-per-view. I can't justify the price for it anymore. Now, we talked about the price of the pay-per-view. It looks like the model may be shifting with the whole Max deal. But right, the idea of having a pay-per-view in April where it tends to be WWE territory, I mean, TNA has 2 this month. Is that a good idea for business where all tide lifts all boats? Or are we bleeding fans dry?
I think, well, we've said before, I think the pay-per-view model, I don't know what their financials say. Their financials may say otherwise, but yeah, I think you're killing your fan base here with these prices. I mean, $50 for a pay-per-view it's tough. And every few months to have to pay $50. I've said before, I think that it's killing their Dynamite ratings too, because again, why am I going to watch a show if I can't afford to watch the season finale? You know, like that is something that I think is hurting them all around. And I just don't think that's the way we consume content anymore. I mean, even movies, people aren't going to the movie theater anymore. They wait for it on their streaming service where it's built into the price of what they're already paying. Yeah. And especially, I don't want it sounds like a joke, but like in this economy, it's a serious thing. And so, I mean, that's forever going to be a miss for me is the price of these shows.
Yeah, we're talking about buying tickets. I mean, I'm jumping around here because we haven't got to the misses of Dynasty yet. But WWE has tickets in Bakersfield the first weekend of June. And Bakersfield isn't necessarily a prime city in California. It could be to some people, but not to me. But tickets start at $80 for a SmackDown. I was like, I remember when they were like $20. And day up was free, but that's just crazy. But the other side of Dynasty, let's talk about some of the misses, unfortunately, because for me, much like a lot of AEW pay-per-views, it did feel like it was a longer show, maybe more subjectively, feel like it was a longer program this weekend.
Yeah, and just real quick, I want to say Kevin Knight, I wanted to give a shout out as a hit. I think that he's a great signing for AEW. So just as a, I mean, obviously him and Will Ospreay had a great matchup, but the reason I don't necessarily put that matchup into the hits, I put it into the misses, actually, because to me, much like you said, too many matches on this show. It went too long, and there were so many matches that felt like they could really juice up a Dynamite. And I think if you had Owen Hart Cup, Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight main eventing a Dynamite where there's stakes, it's a great matchup, big stars, that's money. Like that makes me want to tune into Dynamite. Yeah. And I look at that same thing with Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. I think the same thing with Mercedes Moné. I think there's the Hurt Syndicate match definitely felt like that could have been a story beat on Dynamite, that you could have extended that story very naturally by having that on Dynamite. Just so much stuff that I think would have helped Dynamite more than being on a very long show. I also think the return of like Anthony Bowens would have been better on a Dynamite as opposed to a pre-show, a 0 hour. So that would be my biggest miss. And I think the one that a lot of people are talking about too, that main event, I think I'm torn on this because I think that it is absolutely time to move on from the Death Riders.
What?
I'm over it. I think
but Moxley, man, we love Moxley.
I love Moxley too.
We love Marina Shafir. I mean, I do.
I think that Jon Moxley, if they made a Hall of Fame, he should be one of the first people to go into it. I think he is the MVP of AEW. As far as its history goes, I think he's done more for that company than a lot of people give him credit for. But this Death Riders thing is over to me. I'm done with it. However, I'm torn because your next big show is their biggest event of the year, and you can't change things up right away. I get what they're doing. I get why they're doing it. Yeah. It just feels like, man, it is going to be a slog until All In with this Death Riders thing. And I think that we're going to be happy when Jon Moxley loses the championship for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it's always seemed to be a problem with wrestling over the past 20 years, which I sound like an old man on top of a rock looking over my hermit cave in Summit. But when you have a super group that's evil, that tears things up, you have to find ways to keep that fresh, or else we go, yeah, we saw that already. How many times can you level Metropolis in a comic book there, Soups, you know?
Right.
But that said, I mean, look, stories have to end, and whoever becomes the chosen one to get that championship will be given a little bit of a boost because it's kind of like a refreshing change of pace, I guess, you know. But my hot take, though, and maybe because I am burnt out of the Owen Hart Cup, because it does feel like it's a side
It just
thing.
started.
No, I mean as a concept, like because you know how Owen ever wasn't in AEW, it does seem to go on for forever. It should be a 1 night or 2 night tournament. Like it
Agreed.
should be an addition to Wrestle Dream or like Wrestle Dream, where it's like, hey, this night we're celebrating Inoki. Here's the matches that honor Inoki. It should be Owen Hart Cup, June whatever, 3 hours, 4 hours. Give me a winner so we can say you guys have went through the whole night in a grueling pace.
I 100% agree. It should be 1 night, especially that feels like a very AEW thing to do, to have the 1 night tournament kind of thing. I think that would be fantastic. I agree completely. It should be a 1 night tournament. And again, I think it should be built to like the Royal Rumble, where everyone is kind of has that, like, I need to main event all in. I need to win the Owen Hart Cup to get that. That's the only way I can get there. I will do whatever it takes to win, and, really build it like that. As opposed to, matches kind of go, oh, I guess we'll have 3 today and none on this show, and then maybe 1 on Collision. Like, it's a little too disjointed for me.
I just, not to be like, again, an old wrestling historian, but you kids realized 30 years ago, Owen Hart was the king of hearts because he won a 1 night tournament. Anyone?
Yes, yes, that's true. That is true. I do. But I do like the idea of make that its own show. And you can even give it that Owen Hart theme. Give it like some pink, like around there, and give it that kind of Owen Hart vibe to it. Maybe have some. Maybe one year you have the caution tape and stuff.
I've said enough, but it's time for a change.
You could do a whole bunch of stuff like that. It'd be really cool for them to do it that way.
So real quick, we'll talk about AEW. Let's talk about Dynamite, because one thing that really popped the social medias was a bit of a video featuring the Don Callis family, I guess. And they're recruiting new members. And I know Brian Cage must be busy. What about that Trent Beretta? He's kind of laid up. And they're looking to replenish the forces. Now, Jack, you're a big Don Callis guy. I could tell you take a lot of fashion cues from him. If you had a chance to add to that group, who would you choose?
Yeah, I'm about to add a little red scar here just so I can match him.
How'd you get that?
Yeah, Don Callis family, not a very safe place to be. I feel like everyone that they add ends up getting put on the shelf for a little bit.
Yeah, it's like Star Trek. It's like Kirk and some other random guy go to a planet.
Right.
And the guy just dies.
Yeah. And who's go with you? That person over there.
The red shirt. Yeah.
What was your name again? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Goodbye, my wife.
The boss says it's time for an excursion. Yeah.
They should do an episode like that where like the red shirt always like a little tear runs down his eye because he knows. Like it's like
Dear diary, it's my last day on Earth.
I was chosen for tribute. So the Don Callis family, I'm thinking as I look at who could join, I want to say this is a group that's had some issues, and I feel like sometimes it'd be better for them to all go their separate ways. But if I'm trying to make this group something that could be a force, something that could be interesting, I would say they need to clean house first. We talked about Trent Beretta and then Mark Davis and everyone else. I think the Don Callis family needs to just first off wash their hands.
Wait, how does that even work? They can't close a locker room down, beat them up in the ring. Do they set a severance package, 401k? How do you get rid of people in your group?
I would just say they are no longer part of the group. They've streamlined. They've had some redundancies, as they say in the corporate world. Some people got laid off. They're out. They're done. And so I would have it just Kyle Fletcher, just Takeshita. And then if I had to add someone, you got to add muscle. You got to add power. And this is when I bring in, and I look at Kyle Fletcher. I look at Takeshita. They're young. They're cool, right?
Debatable.
I would want somebody. I mean, have you seen the glasses that Kyle Fletcher's wearing?
That's not cool. That's exactly
Come on now. That is
the anti.
Hip.
Look, as somebody who has cool glasses, that is not cool.
That is Riz, as they say.
They do not stop.
That is so.
That is Riz, children.
I would bring back someone who had his best days in AEW as an enforcer for a group. I would bring back somebody who people have been dying for to be dominant again. I would bring in some muscle. I would bring back Wardlow to be the muscle for Don Callis, Kyle Fletcher, and Takeshita. That would be my triple threat 3-man group. Everyone else would be out. I wouldn't care. We're done. It's too messy with too many people.
Yeah.
Put Wardlow in there and have those 3 guys as your group.
I guess. I mean, it does seem like a lateral change from Brian Cage these days, but I guess.
Well, Brian Cage is injured. It's not like a choice. He's out.
I mean, you're swapping one for one. It's like watching. Oh, sorry, we can't watch Hunger Games. Let's watch Divergent. Oh, you know what I mean? Like,
are you calling Wardlow the Divergent of pro wrestling?
And he's not even Dauntless, baby. I'm just being honest with you. Erudite or Candor. No, okay. So I thought you were going to pick my choice to join the Don Callis family if I was given MJF. No, I'm kidding. He's also busy. I was thinking the same thing. You need some guy with a lot of muscles. A guy looks mean, but a guy who's not already in the group or injured, right? I thought you were going to pick the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. The rumors have been swirling. He signed with AEW. He's not really assigned anywhere. Why not get him involved?
Well, one, because I don't know if he's actually with AEW yet. And two, I think Josh Alexander is someone who's going to crush it in AEW if he is signed over there. But Josh Alexander is his own man. I don't want to see him with the group. I want to see him doing his own thing and just tying people in knots on his own. I don't want to see him in a group.
Ricky Sickles is Megan Bain. We'll get to her later. You know what? Let's do this right now because it's kind of since we're in the AEW block, it's now time for General Manager Pick'em. This is where I get to ask Jack Farmer questions as if he's a GM of a wrestling brand and he gets to make the call. For this one, Jack, you're the general manager of AEW, which, by the way, I think they should need one. I think they really need a general manager, like a real.
They technically do have one, but you're right. They could use one.
No.
More.
I mean, like, I want MVP barrel-chested Jack Farmer size to be their general.
Someone who can fight a tornado.
Yeah, and win.
And win.
You get a call. This one's coming from Raw. It's Adam Pearce. He goes, "Hey, look, man, I got authorization for a cross-promotional trade. Would you be interested?" Now, the AEW Women's Division, its stock is rising, so I want to add some of the core. So Adam Pearce says, "I'm willing to give you Raquel Rodriguez in exchange for the ops. Do you take the deal?"
Ooh, that is a good one, but I can't pass on Samoa Joe. I'm sorry. I can't let go of Samoa Joe. Raquel Rodriguez would be fantastic to add. She'd be another big powerhouse. But I do look at AEW's got a lot of powerhouses right now. They have Megan Bain. They have Camille. They have Statlander. So I don't know if I'm necessarily short a powerhouse. And Samoa Joe is one of my all-time favorites. I can't pass him. I think some general managers would say, yeah, but Samoa Joe has recently talked about how this might be his final contract. I don't know how much longer do you have Samoa Joe anyways, but I've said famously, Flobo, if I was a GM of like a football team, Marshawn Lynch would still be my running back to this day.
That dude hasn't ran at full pace in years.
I'd keep them all. I mean, I would, as the Seahawks general manager, I still have Steve Largent out there.
Oh man, shout out to Ryan Leaf. A plus LA says deal. He would take the deal and have Raquel Rodriguez over on AEW, have a powerhouse division, and getting rid of one of the tag teams, which seems to be okay, but not necessarily pitting the world on fire, especially when the Hurt Syndicate are on top.
I mean, look, if someone was to take that trade, I totally get it. It's not that's you have well crafted this trade. It's a tough one to call. If I was to, for me though, it's Samoa Joe. I can't part with Samoa Joe.
All right. Well, speaking about women, the women's division, I got to go over to SmackDown this week. This is the promo heard around the world. Tiffany Stratton is technically an antagonist, and she is the WWE Women's Champion, but she had a stare down and promo with Charlotte, who was also kind of an antagonist, but everyone's not talking about that. It's talking about Tiffany's word she had for the queen, and so much that she was left flustered. Now we saw something like this with a veteran getting the worst of an exchange with a rookie, but we hadn't really seen it at this level in the women's division. Tiffany Stratton, did she give herself a new level, or she dig herself a corporate grave?
This is, one of those situations. I've always said the personal shots in pro wrestling, sometimes like they're really good and sometimes they get me really excited for a match. And sometimes they just make me feel icky and I don't like it. And these ones, I got to confess, it made me feel icky. Not really a fan.
Hey, your professional opinion?
That is, I think, the technical term. It made me feel icky. I would say Cody Rhodes is like the king of personal things in pro wrestling. He's the king of bringing in personal stories and situations that make you like want to watch the match and want to watch the show. He's very good at that. Paul Heyman, very good at that. Roman Reigns, obviously in the bloodline, very good at that with their history and things. I don't know. Calling out Kaiser doesn't make me want to watch the match any more than I used to, or Charlotte's marriages. That doesn't make me want to watch the match more. And frankly, I think most people who are watching the show don't know about Kaiser and Tiffany Stratton, and they don't really know Charlotte Flair's marriage history. Mm-hmm. I will say I am more interested in seeing the match now, but I'm more interested not because of the story or because of what it is. I'm more interested in seeing if it's going to go off the rails. And that's not exactly why I should want to tune into a match. You know what I mean?
I'm with you to a point. I feel like the promo and the snaps don't make sense in any normal context, right? It's kind of like, all right, you talked about my marriages are all off screen and whatever you're banging, it's all back where I'm from, back in the hood, back in Brooklyn. Talk about who you pray to and how you make your money, right? Excuse me. But on the same time, you're right. It really was a lukewarm women's championship program. There is a bubbling anti-Charlotte sentiment that she's always in the title division. And of course, Tiffany Stratton is one of the more well-liked younger characters. So it's kind of like cathartic for a segment of the audience. The question I have is, once you get these personal things involved, how does it play out in the ring, if at all?
Yeah, that's the point. And I think that watching this promo, at least the one with the Kaiser call out, I think it was very clear to me that you need to pivot on who you're trying to make the fans cheer for and who you're trying to get the fans to boo. Because the fans clearly not a fan. Fans are not fans when it comes to Charlotte Flair. They were booing her. She couldn't get a word in. She was getting that Dominic Mysterio.
I have a question. I'm gonna jump in here. The hate about Charlotte, is it because she's a Flair? Is it because of the title reigns? Does people think that she's on rails to be a champion, or is it her face? Is it her moveset? Why do people don't like Charlotte? I'm a fan.
I'm a big fan. I think she's the greatest women's wrestler of all time. Don't get me wrong there. I do. I think that she absolutely is. And I mean, there's a lot of younger wrestlers who may surpass her at some point, but as of right now, that still goes to Charlotte Flair. So I think there's a lot of people who hate greatness. They hate seeing the person on top always be on top. But there's also a little bit of that. There was a lot of stuff going on, and Charlotte kind of just waltzed in and back to the top. And they're bummed out that the people they've been following all year didn't get that opportunity, which makes sense. I think that, and that's not an anti-Charlotte Flair thing. I think if it was a lot of people, there'd be fans who are a little bummed out that this person just showed up and put themselves in that position. You know what I mean?
I get that, and I guess in a microcosm, but you look at Royal Rumble, right? You had Jey Uso, which was a new talent win. People were upset with that. And you had an established champion in Charlotte win. They're upset about that. Like, what do you people want? You're fickle.
Oh, well, the fans are absolutely fickle. No, they don't want anything. Nothing makes them happy. That's for sure. I just think with, again, going into like the Royal Rumble, we all had our favorites and we all had who we wanted to win because we've been watching their stories. And you look at like on the other side of things, like a Rhea Ripley, like an Io Sky, like a Bailey, like a Lyra. There's a ton of people we've wanted to see, or of course, Bianca or a Jade, people we've been watching all year that we've been hoping to see win, and to have someone else come in, whoever it is, and just get the shot at Royal Rumble feels a little bit like, oh, but what about the people I've invested in for the past 12 months? Again, if you're watching Survivor and it gets down to the final two survivors on the show, and they go, oh, but we're also going to add this third person in who's going to now be, you're like, wait, well, what did I watch this show for? This person where'd they come from? And I get that sometimes that works and sometimes that's great, but when it's someone who's done that already a couple times, it's kind of like, okay, we're
Well,
doing this
this is
again.
a great transition because Jey Uso had the opposite problem because there was a clamoring of saying, hey, look, John Cena might as well should have won the Rumble if he's going to be main event one of the nights at WrestleMania. But then Jey Uso was somebody people invested in quite literally for a year. He has top 3 merch sales behind the champs. But that was kind of like, oh, I can't believe this guy won. This is not saying.
Yeah, well, again, fans are fickle, so that's the way you get it with them. But I get why people are saying that, and I get why people feel like, how come no Royal Rumble winner is actually main eventing WrestleMania?
Let's talk about it. We should talk about it right now. That's the deal. You get the main event WrestleMania. Why else would you go into the match in character if you get the main event WrestleMania? You point at the sign. I didn't say I got a ticket for the rafters. You was a main event WrestleMania.
This is what I've been saying for a long time, Flobo, but you always wag your finger at me, and that is that there's only one main event of WrestleMania, and it is the last match on the second day, but everyone was like, well, we've got a co-main event night 1, and we got a triple main event night 2, and so now 15 matches are the main event. Guess what? It is the main event. It's just not the last match on the show. That's
does
the
not
corniness of all of it.
That does not work for me. Look,
that's not what you said the last time we had this conversation.
No, because I don't know. I always ask you. I'm not sure what day is the main event day. You tell me it's Sunday. I don't really care about that. So, but I said there's 2 Rumbles, so I get having 2 main events. I really do. But in story, I'm asking this. Think of yourself as the professional wrestler. Why would I choose a Royal Rumble to go to WrestleMania if there's crown jewel equivalent pay-per-views everywhere? And if I want to be a champ, I can just do the Money in the Bank match with there's like 6 people or 7 people as opposed to 29. The main event is supposed to be the selling point, and it started off with Bayley last year. She deserved the main event WrestleMania. She got stuffed in the card, and now it's happening again.
But it's been that way for a long time. Alberto Del Rio, when he won the Royal Rumble, he opened the show against Edge.
And it was a crime. I mean, not Edge, he sucked. But it's a crime that he had to open the show.
I agree, but they still called it it's a main event. It's one of the co-main events, is what they said. And it grinds my gears. I've been saying this forever. And by the way, I said like 5 years ago, and I got torn to shreds on After Buzz TV. I'll never forget it. That Money in the Bank is a better thing to win than the Royal Rumble for exactly the reason you just said.
Right. So at the time, I remember shredding. It was a lot of fun to do that because I said, hey, look, main eventing WrestleMania meant something. Now, you're trying to tell me if you make WrestleMania, it's a main event just because it's for a title? That does not work for me. I'm looking at this going, if I am Alberto Del Rio, well, that's a bad example. If I am John Cena, I might as well just wait to see who wins a Rumble and then challenge him to a match next week then, if all it takes is a ticket to WrestleMania. That makes no sense.
I agree. I've been saying that. That's exactly what I've been saying. You have one main event. It is night 2 of WrestleMania. I get, okay, we have 2 Royal Rumble winners. One's got to be night 1. One's got to be night 2. I get it. But the real main event is the end of the show, the end of WrestleMania. That's where that lives. And again,
agreed.
If I was a wrestler, I'd want Money in the Bank because then I could choose the main event just like Seth Rollins did. That's what he did. You could do that no matter what. So I've always said Money in the Bank is better to win than Royal Rumble. But that said, we agree on this. We're agreeing on this.
I hate agreeing with you.
I'm just saying, I said this a long time ago, and you gave me a finger wagging.
I will definitely give you a finger wag. Don't give me a reason. Oh, finger wag. Yes. Okay. So thoughts about the Jay Gunther thing. I mean, it's heating up. It's not a main event, even though they say that it is. But as much as I am not a fan of this current iteration of Gunther, it's cool to see that he is in the main event, quote unquote, of WrestleMania against one of the hottest stars of the past year.
I think Gunther and Jey Uso respectfully have already outkicked the coverage on what many people thought their ceiling was in WWE. And I think it's I think a lot of people, if you looked at Gunther back in 2020 or 2020, no one would have thought he'd be in a world championship match at WrestleMania. And I think
we did because we're NXT UK shills.
We were, but we were doubtful that anyone would make the transition. And then they all made the transition, and now we're like, sweet, that's awesome. But I think this has been great. For a lot of people have been complaining. I think this Jay versus Gunther thing has been awesome. And I think the past few weeks has been really good. And I'm going to say that Jey Uso's promo on Monday this week is the best promo of that man's career by a mile. I think that was absolutely stellar. I think that was star-making. In fact, I think that's one of the things that has separated him from some of the people in the past. One of the things about Kofi Kingston's reign that I wasn't really happy about is that he could never get serious. And he was always the New Day.
Sure. Whenever serious all the time.
Maybe I'm thinking Big E. One of the New Day.
No, guys. Big E was very comical. But Kofi was champion. Him and Orton was serious. But I get what you're saying.
You're right. No, I'm thinking Big E. Yeah. Like, he never made to that serious moment. And I think that this is that serious that we needed from Jay. Yes, he can do the yeets. Yes, he can get the crowd, but he was able to pull it back down and be like, this is a very serious, emotional thing. Fantastic. And I think Gunther is the perfect bad guy for him to face. I hope Jay wins. I think that this is great.
First of all, shout out to Cedric Welton. Yo, we got to have you back on the show when he's
says.
Oh, says. Happy Thursday, gentlemen. So I like the
By the
players.
way, Cedric, your name is says to me. It's not Cedric Welton.
You are a real Jack Farmer to me, too. And I'm DJ Flobo on your phone. This is really weird. Okay,
you really are. You really are.
I like the players here. I like the matches. I love the clash of styles. I don't like the story. We've seen it so many times. I don't buy... When Gunther was Walter... And he was like, I like the wrestling ring. It's sacred to me. That's interesting. Him being like, I'm Austrian and I'm better than you. It's okay. Kind of stereotypical. It's fine. Kind of late 30s, but it's fine. You know what I mean? But you look at Jey Uso and it's like, you can't be an underdog when you've won gold multiple times. You can't be an underdog when you were working with Roman for years. You cannot be an underdog to me if you've been main eventing matches in WrestleManias, technically, for years. I go, okay, you're an underdog here. Your opponent's bigger than you, but I don't believe for a second you're just not a little me, Jey Uso, hope I win. I don't buy that at all.
But he hasn't been able to do it on his own. That's the thing. This is out of his... Yeah, he's been a tag team guy, but we can't say we look at tag team wrestlers the same way we look at...
He beat Braun Breaker. You said we did a Carlito last week. He beat him.
That's true. Well, I mean, Carlito's not the tough guy he used to be, but I mean... Jey Uso, being a twin, being a tag team guy, he's done the promo so many times. Which one are you? That kind of thing. But it's all real. Like, that's a real thing that he's had to overcome. And so I do think that he's an underdog here. And there's a lot of tag teams right now that if you looked at them, they've got a ton of talent, but you don't say, I see them main eventing WrestleMania, co-main eventing WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
You know,
third match night one. Main event.
You know, so I think that this is a not only is it for the character, a underdog situation, but I think as fans watching this, the fact that he could do this would be a big thing. Who's a wrestler? I mean, you could call the Usos, you could make the argument that Usos are the best tag team of all time.
Just I don't know. Says.
I mean, I don't know if they'd be my list, but if someone said they're the best of all time, I wouldn't argue with them. I bet, yeah, they very well could be.
I think they're the second most decorated champions of all time, behind the Dudley Boys.
So yeah, they could be the best. And so for a best tag team wrestler of all time conversation to get into the world championship is a very rare thing.
Which would be great if he actually main evented and not did third match night 2. It sucks.
You're right. I agree.
All right, we got to get these comments because we actually have some quality stuff here. Thank you so much for streaming along with this. Cedric Welton says, Big E, only got serious with the Bloodline crossover, and they didn't let him beat Roman at Survivor Series? Survivor Series.
I never know if it's Survivor Series or SummerSlam.
They say Survivor, because to me, it says it's SummerSlam, so I'm going to say it's Survivor Series here.
I'm accepted. I just remember them doing the New Day and Pancakes thing with the title run at one point, and that's That's probably what I was thinking of.
Kofi did give out pancakes when he was doing like the normal TV, but when he faced Ziggler and Orton, they were very much serious.
Yeah.
But A Plus LA says Jay's promo would have worked so much better in the Thunderdome. That's a hot take. the fans eating during his promo took a little away from it. They can never be serious. That is definitely true. One of the times about having a catchphrase is that it sells merch, but then it has difficulties when cutting a promo, a la LA Knight.
What?
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 A little bit of thing. Well, again, the match is going to be banger. It might steal the show, but I just say, like, what's the point of having a Royal Rumble then? The Royal Rumble might as well not be the Royal Rumble. It is just a Rumble now. That's right. Hot take. Just saying that as well. But the biggest story from the Monday Night brand isn't Jay and Gunther. It's this whole Roman Reigns, which, by the way, I read this week, his title run was longer than the Attitude Era. Blows my mind. Seth Rollins.
Really?
Yeah, it was. Seth Rollins, CM Punk, The Promise. Paul Heyman is going to be in the corner of not Roman Reigns, but CM Punk. Psychological warfare abounds on Monday Night Raw.
So, I got to say, you mentioned the Attitude Era. I got to say, finding out that Dynamite is about to surpass how many Nitros there were blows my mind. That I've watched more... I've watched more AEW than WCW. It's just weird. It's crazy because I feel like I was watching WCW for my entire life, but really it was just this like short couple of years.
Of course, that pandemic time warp didn't help things, but I'm with you.
Right. Man, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. I want to hate the fact that this is a triple threat, but these guys have done just a fantastic job with all this, and Paul Heyman has done a fantastic job. And I think the story of CM Punk's return and maybe WWE, but I guess I'll say CM Punk's return is finding value in the most insignificant things, whether it be a bracelet, whether it be a favor, and finding ways to take stuff that is really just insignificant and silly when you think about it objectively in a vacuum, and making it feel like the most important, the Ulafala, just the most important things that are so valuable. And this whole thing between these three has been magic. I do think one-on-one matches in this situation always feel a little bit heavier, but I'm fascinated to see how this turns out. I love how we ended with Seth Rollins now saying, now you owe me a favor. Fascinating. My one hang up is this feels like Mania, this match at Mania is going to be a situation where it then pivots to the next part of the story, where I like to think that Wrestlemania is supposed to be the culmination of the story. And just as a nerdy wrestling fan, that grinds my gears a little bit. But that said, I think it's going to be a huge talking point coming out of WrestleMania Night 1 main event, that whatever happens with Paul Heyman and these three individuals, I hope Paul Heyman makes the right decision and sides with Seth Rollins. That's right. Seth Rollins is my guy. I want Seth Rollins to win this thing.
Okay, so Seth Rollins winning won't be the end of the world, but I'm really ticked off because that's not how favors work. I can't be, hey, Jack, I was going to punch you. I didn't. You owe me a favor. Like, that's not how that works at all. Wait a minute. I didn't ask for this.
In my hood.
Yeah, the mean streets of Tacoma. But I would say that the whole the purest way of looking at WrestleMania as a season finale, especially in the Attitude Era where Backlash was definitely like the epilogue, and then you get the whole new storylines, does that really exist now with all these PLEs being in these far off locations and multiple day events now? Like, is there going to be a clear season opening and season closing of wrestling storylines?
I mean, maybe not. You know what I mean? As Triple H said after WrestleMania 39, the story never ends. So I guess that could be the case. But I do think that, and this is my prediction, I guess, whatever. I do think that the best case scenario is Paul Heyman joining Seth Rollins at the end of the show, because one, I think that frankly Seth Rollins deserves it after all he's done. Seth Rollins is one of my favorites over the past 10 years, so I'm biased there for sure. But
huge bias.
I also look at Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman is someone who is always looking forward. He doesn't look backwards. When he talks about his favorite times, he's not talking about Taz being the world champion. He's talking about Cody. He would say the guy right now. You know what I mean? He's always looking for the next thing. And I don't really know if like Paul Heyman doesn't play the greatest hits. You know, if you go to the Paul Heyman concert, you're not going to hear him hit the classics. He's going to play. He's going to bore you with the new stuff.
Oh yeah. Do Stairway. play Freebird.
But I think he wants to do something new, and I don't think there's a whole lot of meat on the bone for him continuing with Roman or going back to CM Punk. I think he would look at those as like, I've done that. We've seen that. And I think the new thing would be for him with Seth Rollins. And I think that you could get a lot of mileage out of those two.
I agree, but also disagree. I do think if Paul were to leave Roman has to do a hard character reset. I'm not sure if the bloodline thing is, well, it is dead, but I feel like it should have been stretched out. But, you know, the War Games came and they had to do that match. So there's really not you can't really rebuild it. But if he goes to Seth Rollins, it breaks my mental or my headcanon because Paul tends to get guys at the bottom of the wave, right? Seth Rollins has been on the top of the card for so long. I mean, Paul Heyman goes after guys like Cesaro, Curtis Axel, you know what I mean? Bo Dallas, that was a Paul Heyman guy. Him going with somebody who doesn't really necessarily need him is kind of interesting at this point.
Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk.
Brock Lesnar, when he was with Paul Heyman, was a new, fresh, up-and-coming talent that became the next big thing, is what I'm saying. He didn't go to Brock Lesnar in 2015. He was at Brock Lesnar in 2002.
He came back to him, though, after Brock Lesnar left, and he was with the Big Show for a while, and everyone else. The Big Show was also
if Braun Breaker was a Paul Heyman guy, that makes sense for me. But Seth Rollins seemed like he's the main guy already.
He joined Roman Reigns after he'd already main evented 100 WrestleManias.
Because he was a bad guy now. It was different. He was a meanie. Come on. Leave it alone.
I mean, I feel like Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman sounds cool, but I also feel like Braun Breaker is too similar to what he's been doing.
Fair enough.
You know?
It's kind of a bad example, but...
I don't think, well, I think that's what a lot of people think is Braun Breaker will be the next Paul Heyman guy. But I think Seth Rollins is a very different take on what Paul Heyman would do too. Because he's not just a powerhouse that'll run people over like a Roman Reigns. And he's not the, edgy CM Punk kind of guy. I think that'd be I think they'd be able to do a lot of different things we've never seen before.
What's in it for Seth?
Seth's had a bad string of luck. If you've been watching him, he has not been very dominant since Cody Rhodes showed up. If you think about it, he got swept by Cody Rhodes. He got beaten, basically swept by CM Punk. The only win he got over CM Punk was because Roman Reigns drug him out of the cage. Seth Rollins, not on a great run. Seth Rollins, you talk about bottom of the wave. If you look at his win-loss record, Seth Rollins kind of needs a Paul Heyman.
Damn. And everyone was singing a song the same way. As we wind this down here, we got to talk about NXT, my favorite brand of wrestling programming. This week, we had some words from Ricky Saints, the new North American champ, or the new men's North American champion. And I wanted to ask you about this. Talk about how we get towards Stand and Deliver season. It seems that there's more and more elements of new page or new kind of energy in NXT as it is right now. Some players like Trick Williams pretty much are at their last stand. Some guys like Ricky Saints are at the start of their runs. What would you say is the state of NXT right now in 2025?
I think that they've got all the pieces that they need there. I think you're right. I think there's a big class that's looking to graduate, and this is kind of where they were last year, right? With Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker getting ready to move on. I think Trick Williams is more than ready for the main roster, and it feels a little bit like we're kind of just waiting for that to happen for him. I look at the roster that's probably going to stay though, and you're right, it's stacked. Ricky Saints is clearly going to be a star for them. I think Javon Evans, I mean, with how young he is, seriously might go on to be one of the all-time greats. Oba Femi, I think, is barely past a year. He's still got to be fairly new. And in the women's division, of course, Jordan Grace, Stephanie Vakir, Julia. I think the thing that they're going to need to do, though, is Ethan Page is another one. They're going to have to work pretty hard, though, to, in my opinion, to make a lot of these characters feel like NXT characters and feel like that's their home. Because a lot of them are new and a lot of them sort of got thrust into their spot.
True.
And for good reason. I mean, I'm not saying that like undeservedly. They should be featured, but a lot of them were sort of thrust in to their spot. And I think we need to sort of let it settle and make it feel like they really live in this world and they weren't just added to this world.
Just a quick clarification. Obafemi debuted November 18th, 2022, but his run, I would say, started off with a breakout tournament in 2024. I do think a lot of the women's division, though, are pretty cool with their characters. Now we kind of feel Ruka feels different than Zarya, who feels different than Kalani Jordan. So I'm not saying they were improved. I mean, the ring work was always there, but there felt like a time like 6 months ago where it was like, wait, who's that? Wait, who's that person? They're very similar. The men's division seems kind of cluttered. I like Lexus King. We saw the Heritage Cup. You know how I feel about the Heritage Cup. But I wonder if he needs another year of seasoning or will he move? Like, it is kind of an odd thing because there is no formal draft anymore. We had the open portal in January. I'm not sure if it portal opens again. There's really not much literature on that, but I wonder what's going to be the shifting.
They don't have a pamphlet.
There's no pamphlets, man. I try looking. There's no PDFs anywhere. I don't know.
There's
no
a
QR codes.
trifold I could open up and.
No QR codes, but I would say that, one of the main events for Stand and Deliver, or one of the players in the main events, Trick Williams, Javon Evans, or Obafemi, should move to the main roster at some point, especially Trick. He was in the main event last year at Stand and Deliver as well.
Yeah, Obafemi could go anytime. I think he's ready. And I guess Obafemi was there that long. Yeah, it does feel like he must have just been in the background and then.
Well, he was Stand and Deliver last season. Remember last season with Josh Briggs, when Josh Briggs got the push and we thought it was going to be his crowning achievement, but it wasn't.
Right. Because that's when he was the North American champion. I guess he has been around a little bit over a year. But
hot take though, I don't think Oba's ready. It's a huge hot take. I don't think Obafemi's ready. He has a look, he has a strut, has the theme song. The character is good enough to be defined to see him how he would do situations, but the in-ring work is still pretty raw. I do feel like stamina is going to be his downfall, or conditioning, whatever you want to say it. I think a couple more months, I think he'd be ready. But if I had to make a call right now, Trick will be the one of that match. Trick will be the one I would call first.
Oh yeah, Trick Williams, I think for sure. I think where Obafemi is going to struggle is right now the main roster is filled with Haas's, and so. What does Obafemi do when he's not the Haas? What does Obafemi do when he is in the ring with like a Braun Strowman or a Braun Breaker or a Bronson Reed? I'm not trying to use all the Brauns.
It's true. Can you be a ruler if you're jobbing to Logan Paul? I mean, I don't know.
Right. Well, and that what happens when he loses to Logan Paul? What happens when he loses to Jacob Fatu? You know, there's a lot of people in there that he can't necessarily come in and just say, I'm the ruler, and bully them around the way he does in NXT. So
Braun Fatu, I know. Yeah, Jacob Fatu.
It's that is where, how is he going to handle adversity? I think is the big question for Obafemi, because he's not going to be as unstoppable as he is now. And so what does his character look like when his win-loss record is closer to 50-50 than it is to 95?
That said, if Oba is called up to the main roster, and I hate to think of wrestlers as product because they kind of are, having an African champion of that size and strength, not played for comedy. No disrespect to Apollo Crews, but when he adopted the accent, it was for comedy more or less. Could be really cool. Could be really cool for the brand in that part of the world.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think, I think. The idea of Obafemi on the main roster works for me. The idea of Obafemi in a top spot on the main roster works for me. It's just the moving pieces.
What say you if you're NXT watching? If there's anyone that you want to see on the main roster, like now, assuming there's a draft or open portal period, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. I would love to read that because it does feel that NXT is finding its groove, but also feels like there's a lot of bodies in the Performance Center vying for time as well. And Swipe Right, it was on NXT this week, but it's pretty cool. So Evolve is evading NXT.
Let us know in the comments or in the chat your spicy take for who you'd like to see pulled up. Because obviously Trick Williams, maybe Roxanne Perez are pretty obvious, like they're ready. But who's someone that maybe isn't obvious that you would like to see on the main roster? I think that's always fun to see.
Speaking of spicy, Julia? Okay, Miss Edge. All right, coming out after an injury with a bit of sass. I did not see that coming at all. It's like, wow.
Yeah, she. I thought it was pretty jerky of her the way she treated Stephanie. By the way,
It was.
That was a little unfair of the way she handled that situation.
Oh man, got herself a little bit of a ticket punched for Stand and Deliver. That said, man, next week is going to be a crazy time for wrestling fans. Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania, WrestleMania After Dark, Defy, Progress, Effie, like everything's happening in Las Vegas next week. I know you're heading out there, man, but how are you navigating all the events?
Yeah, I'm going to be heading out there. I'm really excited. On Thursday, I've got the morning show with Defy Living Proof. I'm going to be calling the action for that one with a lot of great matches ups I'm excited for, but also Progress at midnight on Thursday, or is that midnight on Friday, depending on how you look
Is it 12:01 Friday, or is it 11?
I think it's 11:59. So I think
Thursday,
call it Thursday.
Cool.
Is when that show happens, and a lot of great matchups on there. I'm looking forward to. In fact, a Nina Samuels match might get called by Jack Farmer. For longtime fans of Draped in Gold, you know that's going to be a big one. I'm excited about.
Did we talk about the Nina Samuels incident? So anyway, when we had an NXT UK show, Nina Samuels was like, Jack Farmer's right, Flobo was wrong, and I had it out for ever since. Only I may say I'm wrong. Needs more Nina. No,
yes, needs more Nina. So I'm excited. Those are both going to be great shows. And then it's very man, I honestly, this is the first Mania I've been to that I don't really have a schedule planned after that. So I'm going to be probably trying to find my way into different shows. I don't know which one I'm going to go to. What night is Wrestlemania?
That sounds so sketch. I think it's Friday night.
It's Friday night. So I might try to get into Wrestlemania. Let me ask you, Flobo, you're going to be out there. Are you a Wrestlemania guy, or are you going to be a official WrestleMania?
Confirmed Wrestlemania is Thursday night, April 17th. I look, and that's not to brag, because we're entertainers, we have egos. The 1 year when we were invited to Wrestlemania, I enjoyed it. It was kind of cool. It was kind of fun. It was kind of to be seen, right? You go out there, you shake hands, and you do things. If I am invited again, I probably would. But to go and try to break in there to be seen is kind of morally reprehensible. Like, I can't imagine trying to jump into the wrestling thing. Like, remember me? I got a podcast, y'all. It seems like I'm trying to drag out, trying to get any kind of fame. But props for those who go out there. I know WrestleMania themselves, or WWE themselves, have their own WrestleMania After Dark after party going on as well. So I don't know. I'll go if I'm invited, but I feel weird trying to break in and try to be seen.
Let me ask you this. Okay, you're invited with a free ticket to Wrestlemania or the official WrestleMania after show. Which one do you go to?
So this is kind of a tough question. I'll tell you why. I will do the WrestleMania after show out of spite. with all due respect to Wale
Take that, Wale.
No, but no, Wale doesn't know I'm alive. So one of the things I've always struggled with as being a wrestling podcaster, which I know there's many of us, especially being a wrestling journalist, which I do write, is that I've never felt invited to that particular cookout. I always felt like there was a chance to get me to go there, but I was never included. And the year I was invited because my show I was on was included, not me specifically. So I've always had a chip on my shoulder about that and the Wrestlemania crew and just the whole wrestling podcaster subsection, which I'm a part of. Black people. I'm just kidding. But at the WrestleMania After Dark,
should have paired this with the opening segment.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just feel like, look, I'm a brother too. I love wrestling too. I've been covering for 15 years, but you never see me involved in these group photos, never see me involved in these things. And I struggle with that as a black wrestling fan and journalist. But I always tell myself, I didn't do this for fame. I want to talk about wrestling. And so the fact that there's more of us doing it means the world to me. I shouldn't have my ego involved. See, we have an ego. That said, WrestleMania After Dark is brand new. So it could be a train wreck. It could be something amazing. If someone gave me a ticket to both, I would probably go to WrestleMania After Dark first. Again, not to be seen, not for any kind of clout, to see what it's all about.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'd want to see what WrestleMania After Dark is like. So there's a little bit more curiosity for me there. I do feel like after parties for things like this, the unofficial one is usually the cooler one.
It definitely is. I'm telling you right now, Wrestlemania is going to be cooler. That's why I was like, it's so hard. Like, it's party for party. Wrestlemania. Come on.
Right. So yeah, it's interesting, but I don't know. I can't go to it because I'm gonna be at Progress calling the action over there. But I don't know.
LA, we need more than 30 fans.
Unless all of you show up to Vegas.
Yeah, we'll see at the food court at the Luxor between 10:30 p.m. Lordy.
And we'll only get it because there's a birthday party right before, and we'll reuse all their paper plates.
Oh man, just slide it over here.
So yeah, I don't. My schedule's still open. I'm gonna figure out kind of on the days of what I'm doing. I want to go to Mania because I've been fortunate enough to go to the last few of them.
Yeah,
and I'm on kind of a streak, but I gotta be honest with you, man. We talked about the pricing of AEW tickets, and shows. I might be priced. It's brutal, those prices.
Yeah,
brutal.
The floor is still about $1,200 minimum, and it might go down, but it's not gonna go down to $2. And I get it on some level because it is Wrestlemania. So if there's one event on the planet that should be expensive, it should be the season finale, if it still is one. But again, a random SmackDown being $100 for the rafters is too much. And I understand that you're going to have certain clientele, but you're still a road show. So if you go to Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania, you can't expect people to have the price of 3 dozen eggs to go to your wrestling show. That's crazy.
Right. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, hopefully I can get in. We'll see. I might be able to find a way to sneak in.
You will. You're Jack Homer, man. And it's Allegiant. So once you get in, just go to one of the lounges and just post up. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's probably, I usually end up moving around a lot when I get my ticket anyways, though. So
yeah. So we haven't really figured this out, whether or not we're going to have a show next week. We should. I'm not sure if we're going to have to do with our schedule.
Do you want to do it? Should we just announce it? Do you want to just lock it in?
Hey, man, you pick the time. I'll be there.
All right. Well, we were chatting. Let's pull back the curtain a little bit. We were chatting. So a few updates on the show is we're looking at after Mania moving to evenings on Wednesdays. So after AEW, so we can go live after AEW. That would not mean it's an AEW after show. It'd still be the same format. It would just happen to be after Dynamite. Because that's why you're a hater. That's why I call you a hater.
I'm not an AEW. I'm an AEW Dynamite hater because it's so long.
Long Dynamite?
Yeah, 2 hours. Woof. But it feels like 4, Jack. That's my point.
Listen, I love pro wrestling, but I will say those Lucha Underground 1 hour episodes. Wow.
Chef's kiss.
NXT UK. Wow. Perfect.
Yeah.
But so we will be moving to evenings after WrestleMania, but we will also be doing, if we're officially announcing it, a special Tuesday night edition of Draped in Gold. Since we won't be able to do it on Thursday, we're going to do it Tuesday night after NXT. That puts it at, let's say 7:30.
Pacific
time.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be 10:30 Eastern. Yep.
Cool. So we're gonna do it.
I'm running it down now, so I'm so silent. I'm running it down on my schedule. Yep, 7:30. We'll be there, boss. No problem.
That's what, this is why I don't run a company. It's because I just think I say it.
Well, okay. So Ricky Sinclair says Finn's up, of course. Moving to Wednesday nights is great. So there was some debate there. One is night times usually when we work because we're both entertainers, so it's kind of a thing. But you're right, having a trial run, if you will, at night to make sure people throw in or comments always good.
Yeah, so I think that'll help us out. We're gonna try that. And KOD coming through at the end here. Good to see you. Not sure what the prayers for Nick Gage are for, but hopefully he's okay. But yeah, so we will be moving next week to Tuesday evening after NXT, but going forward after WrestleMania, we will be Wednesday nights.
Yeah. Wow. Until we're bored of it, we give up again, you know?
We have a history of that.
Yeah. We've been canceled, 4 times, 3 times?
Are we just counting us, or are we counting AfterBuzz and Wrestling Inc. and The Ringer?
We get fired a lot. we do get fired a lot. You guys are great. Listen, we're winding your show down. What?
Listen, I will say, in entertainment, you can't beat we're winding the show down talk.
Right. Yeah,
the absolute... You are really probably the greatest to have ever done it. We're going to shut the show down.
It's not you, it's us. We're going through some things.
You have never been broken up broken up with, like when you get broken up with a media company telling you that the show is getting canceled.
Yeah, art and entertainment and commerce right there back to back. But yeah, so just to recap, Tuesday next week, Wednesday thereafter. You'll know what you think. If we get even less followers, we'll move back to Thursday. So I'm threatening you guys to come on out on Wednesday.
Well, yeah, and let us know too, by the way, like if you what you would prefer as far as times. Maybe we're wrong. Let us know.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap this up, here's a question. I usually ask, what are you doing? But we already said that. Anything you're working on, man? Any side projects? If I want to follow you right now, if I want to engage with you right now, how do I go about doing that?
Best way to follow what I'm doing is to follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. That's where I keep all my information out there for folks, whether it be different podcasts, wrestling shows, commercials, Monster Jam, whatever I'm hosting. That's where I'm at.
Wow, you just do so many things, man. Just don't forget about me, bro. It's fine.
What was your name again?
Well, it's Bronson Reed. So I will be not doing those things because no one books me for anything anymore. But I have a blog. Check it out at justasandwich.com. Sports, comedy, and travel all together, where Jack's actually doing it and living life. I'm just writing about it.
No. Well, you could do it. You chose not to.
What do you mean chose not to? Somebody book me, please. Give me a manager or an agent. Give me a Paul Heyman. I want a wise man. That'd be great.
What if at the end of WrestleMania, Paul Heyman goes, I'm choosing Flobo Boyce?
Look, it's me. Here's your ticket to Wally Mania. Son of a. No. All right. I'm getting out of here, man. Until next Tuesday, I guess. Please say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.